Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. Today is 24th of April, 2023, and I'm continuing my series, Daily Reality with Alex. Today, I would like to speak about and to express my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions regarding the reality duality. And this is a very interesting topic. And once we realize that it is impossible for all of us to exist without the existence of duality, without the existence of the distinctions, and it is a very, very deep dive into the so-called paradoxes of life. Why life is created the way it is, and why we as human beings are experiencing so much that we don't know. I remember when I tried and when I started and when I wrote my first small booklet, which you can find in alexanderermenkov.com webpage. And this booklet is regarding the paradoxes of life. And maybe if you want, I would like to share it with you so that you can also see what was Alex Ermenkov thinking when I started my journey regarding exploring reality. So when you go into my webpage and when you go into the books, this is my first book with 10 chapters. It's a booklet, it's an electronic mini e-booklet. But for sure, I don't want to position myself just as everyone else and to tell you, okay, I have written so many books and this is my ideas and so on. For me, the more interesting thing is 20 years from now, when I look into what I have written in 2022, is it going to be still actual for me? Is it going to be still fascinating for me? Is it still going to give me the sparks that this type of thoughts created for me in 2022. You can download the book here, and in the booklet, you can see all the different things that I'm searching for and that are making the meaning of my life. And what I found out, it is very strongly connected to the duality, that the paradoxes of life are everywhere around us, and that there are so many unanswered questions once we are here in our existence. And the booklet is Understanding Life Paradox, Understanding Who I Am Paradox. And for me, it's very interesting because everything in reality is a paradox. We are experiencing liveliness, but are not understanding life. We know that we know that the I amness is there, but we cannot understand it, we cannot feel it, we cannot touch it, we cannot comprehend it. How am I supposed to live paradox? Where are the instructions that all of us are following? Why there are so many dogmas and why there are so many different flows and movements and structures that are giving to us the answers to how are we supposed to live, why there is a requirement, and where is the written requirement of how are we to follow the instructions of what we are to experience. Then the time paradox, because of the cycle that is appearing. Then why we cannot still answer the questions of who's around paradox? Except the us, the animals, and all in the visible, we are feeling that there is something more, that there is someone more, that there are more beings than who we are, and we cannot answer these questions. There are so many myths, so many legends. and there is so little reality, at least experiential reality, at least a reality that can be used on a daily basis. And of course, there are 5 more chapters. I'm just going to download it just for a second in order to double check what are the other chapters. So the time paradox, present, past, future, and it is a very interesting topic for me. And I'm constantly reflecting upon this, why the beginning and the end is hidden from us, and yet all of us are speaking about journeys, but we don't know the start, we don't know the end, and this is part of the paradoxes that we are here in this specific day, in this daily reality. Every morning when we open our life and our eyes, because it's almost the same, we are exploring all these paradoxes. So the time is one of the paradoxes, which is very important. You can go into my webpage, download the book. It is 100% free. Even I don't want you to give me your email in order to download the book. I spoke about who's around paradox, and because of understanding who's around, there is the relationship paradox principle that is existing for all of us, because all of us are so strongly into the individualization of ourselves. But we cannot understand the paradox that individualism exists only because of the necessity of the existence of the collective. There are so many tendencies in all over the place of knowledge where these paradoxes are constantly working in reality, or the so-called reality duality. So the other big paradox is, and it is the essence of the existence of duality and the existence of reality, the creator paradox. Because if a creator exists, immediately it creates duality between creation and creator. And we are constantly experiencing this paradox. And the most important thing is why he is always behind the scene, why the destiny of the creator is to be always separated from the creation to some extent. Yes, gradually this revealing is happening, and some of us are saying that we are actually constantly evolving and coming to more awareness of understanding, and the evolution is doing everything for us. Or maybe we are little by little discovering the existence of our creator. And the paradox of the universal fixer and savior is also something that is appearing, and I would like to later on a little bit give you more ideas about the reality duality, how to transcend it, and how to transmute it rightly, not by ignoring, for example, the negative or ignoring the positive, but I'm going to speak about this later. But the existence of duality requires the existence of a fixer and a savior, and we can debate a lot about the necessity of this paradox to exist in reality. But be sure this paradox exists, and this is part of the meaning of purpose. And of course, the part of the last paradox is what's next paradox. We don't know the end. We don't know the final destinations. And of course, the bigger thing that is constantly bothering our mind, our reasoning, is the so-called Utopia paradox. will imperfectness as we comprehend it stop to exist? How are we able to spot that something is imperfect if we don't have an absolute? If we don't know that there is existence of a perfectness etalon and absolute, and to some extent something deep inside of us is speaking about this. Is perfection, balance, harmony the only beneficial way? Is there something more? Is there other possibilities, other probabilities for the end game of the Utopia paradox? So if you want, you can go and you can download this book. It is a small book, but it is all my thoughts which help me to define what I am doing forward with my life and how I'm revealing before me what is actually happening in life, and with the presentation about reality duality, I would like all of us to feel the enjoyment of the existence of the duality, because duality is here for all of us to experience for a purpose. Once we start becoming grateful about the existence of the good and evil, about the existence of life and death, only then we are in ability to process and to start transcending and to understand that there is no such thing as a third way, as the middle way, but there is such thing as the above way. Just imagine a triangle where the dualities are the two extremes in the base of the triangle. And the aboveness is on the top that is uniting. And as the Gnostics and the Rosicrucians and the Platonians and all the Greek thinkers have realized that the duality with the existence of the monad, with the existence of the oneness, is created the so-called Trinity that is able to transcend only then duality. Without the existence, without the discovery of the absolute monad, of the absolute oneness, of the absolute source, it is impossible to understand the paradoxes of life, to understand the duality, to understand the tension, to understand why there is only one way of duality through the monad to create the wholeness. And of course, there are a lot of YouTube videos that you can watch regarding the numbers from 1 to 9 and how numbers are representing relationships between everything that is in existence. The forces, the consciousness, the powers, the energies, everything can be represented with the numbers. And I would like to continue about the most visible and experiential part of the duality, which we are constantly into the delusion of ignoring, and this is the so-called life and death duality principles. And it is very important because there are only two movements forward. One is the movement towards death, and the other is the movement towards life. And for both of the movements, there is a necessity of a much more deeper understanding of reality structure. There's so much knowledge regarding the content, especially of the physical matter reality, because the non-physical matter reality is not so easily definable because it's defined only by its expressions through the physical matter reality. And we are only making deductions about what is above, what is behind, and what is in the realm of causality. And I would like now to give you a very interesting integrating principle that helps me a lot, and I have been very eager to discover and to start implementing. And here is where we all get it wrong. We think that we are only to focus on one specific power, on one specific thing. And immediately when we focus on one thing, on one power, on one idea, or one process, immediately the power of duality starts to exist. I will give you a small example. There are so many of us which are in the so-called unconditional love movement. It is impossible this type of movement to exist without the unconditional hate movement. It looks like it is 100% non-logical this to be so, because Alex, we want only the positive part of reality, and we are going to give even our lives for only the positive appearance of the so-called goodness, of the so-called light, of the so-called positive of the reality. And we will constantly ignore the negative, the death, the hate, and all of this negative shadow side of ourselves. And basically, here is the so-called, not secret, but the so-called revealing of actually how things are everywhere working through this triad of the triangle, which is able to dissolve. It is not possible love to exist without the hate and without the connection with the monad, with the source, and with the oneness, because in the wholeness of existence, death is never going to disappear, but death is just going to be conquered by life. Evil is never going to stop to exist. It is just going to be dissolved because of the presence of the triad of good, evil, and the oneness and the absolute. And here it's a very interesting part, because what is love? Love is connectedness. Love is bonding. What is hate and what is death? Hate is to put all our energy into disconnecting. It is not possible to be connected and attached towards something without also using the opposite force of disconnected thing from. So basically, what I would like to establish here is that we are created in such a way that we are to use several forces simultaneously. And this is how even our body works. If we are using only our mind, we are not going to succeed. If we are using only our heart, we are not going to be able to succeed long-term also. But once we start using the connection between the two different forces simultaneously, and even if we add the gut feeling into it, it becomes a totally different united force, because everything in reality is regarding unity, is leading us towards unity, but based on the order and the structure of the construct. Because unity is not to blend the two opposites of duality. Union is not to blend death and life. Union is to, on a daily basis, being attached towards life, resisting everything that is called death. And if you just paraphrase life as connectedness to the source, and that as disconnectedness to the source, it is impossible to only want to connect without also desiring to be disconnected from what is opposing the oneness. And this is a very interesting principle where we are to learn that simplification is good, because this is how our mind is trying to make distinctions, and always the contrast is necessary for the mind in order to define the optimum. But this is not enough in reality. When we start using the powers that are creating the emotions, the wills and desires, then we are not fixing only on one thing. We are created a complex being. As a Christian, I was wondering about how it's possible God, in the same time, to love, also to hate, also to create, and also to destroy, also to be 100% putting his attention upon me, and also to be 100% with attention about everything, and to be stating that it is a non-biased being, and that no personality attachment is possible. 100% disconnection from personality attachment, and again, 100% connection on a personal level with every individual being that will ever exist. How is it possible? The creator of life to allow also the existence of death. And this is only describing that the creator's being is the absolute aggregation of all the paradoxes, and it is able to transcend them in such a way, and to also hold them into structure in such a way that through the existence of duality and the opposite forces of reality, to actually be able to connect and to understand that only through the connectedness with the whole and the one and the monad, it is possible to understand, to comprehend, and to use duality as a force that is able long-term to attract and to bring harmony and wholeness. Does it mean that we are long-term allowing negativity and everything that is opposing to the absolute to exist? Because of the probabilities and the possibilities, it will always exist. But all of us are able to position in such a way that we are more and more comprehending the beauty of everything that is positive, but also are knowing how through our bodies to use the powers of resistance, but not from the position of fear, but from the position of love towards not the opposite duality, but towards the existence of the absolute. So we are embracing good because of the absolute, and not because we are afraid of evil. We are embracing life, not because we are afraid of death, but because we are honoring the creator of the life force, and so on in reality. And then we are not going to speak anymore about morals and moral dogmas, but we are going to speak more about life force possibility for existence. And of course, there are long-term two different movements. One of the movements is saying, well, we are to resist the absolutes, we are to resist the monad, and we are going to create our own different simulacrums and realities without and by the power of independence and freedom from the construct and reality. And the other movement is saying that basically what we all need is to surrender and to understand the harmony with the structure, that coherence with what is the only beneficial long-term thing that is able to rise up all creation and to sustain the dignity of all the existence. And this is a very small presentation regarding how to work with the reality duality and the existence of the paradoxes of life. Because it's not possible to erase them, even if we go delusional in our mind and we say, well, I'm not going to anymore spot the dualities. I'm just going to spot the oneness. I'm just going to blend everything into perfect blender harmony, and I'm not going to distinguish anymore and have discernment, because this is the new reality of the future, where everything will be allowed and everything will be dignified. It doesn't matter if it's good and evil. Everything has its right to exist and be manifest. And we are to support everything destructive, because this is the choice of part of the creation, and we are to honor this. Yes, there are such possibilities, but if we are bold enough to express the monad and the absolute, and are willing for ourselves personally to dissolve the duality principle and to understand that hate is not something bad. This is one of the forbidden things in the society in which we are living, because we are putting it towards personalities, towards the wrong thing. If we use only the desire and the focus towards goodness, we are going to create an utopian society which is 100% tyrannic and 100% non-authentic. But if we are able to use both the forces within the unity with the Creator, then only it is possible in harmony, both to be able to exist, but everything long-term in its right place. And maybe in the future, I would like to explain for all of us why it is not possible the existence of a space called hell and the lake of fire not to exist. Why it's not possible this specific place to not exist in our head, in the physical matter reality, in the spiritual reality, everywhere, and why it's not possible this type of space to be part of the existence in everything, because both of the dualities have its beginning and also have their long-term end destination. But of course, this is another topic that I would like to deconstruct from the perspective of ruling of our own personal realities, without being biased, without just saying, well, because this and this religion says so, this is why it is so. For me, it's much more important, all of us, to have our own personal experiential exploration of the knowledge and educing that is coming from the realizations that we are receiving from our life experience, than just being dogmatically accepting things that are imprisoning us. So thank you for watching today. Enjoy your duality reality, because it's there for all of us in order to discover the absolute monad and the absolute creator. Some of us are labeling as God, and some of us are labeling as only force, or it doesn't matter what type of labels we are using in this reality. The important thing is to acknowledge the existence of Creator to the creation. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your duality reality and have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.